to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today is entrepreneur and Abraham Hicks fan Louis D'Souza. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Happy? I'm so happy because we got so many of the StreamYard things working better. I mean, my life just improved in 30 seconds, Louis, just by having those improvements take place. I mean, how good is it, right? When you find that you've been focusing on what you want, you get what you want, and then you celebrate like, yeah, this is great. I love this. So I'm off to a good start, despite the fact, like I told you before we started the show today, that I'm going a little crazy because we're in the middle of gardening season. And of course, we run a gardening service here. And we're in the middle of the spring when everybody wants something. But I tell you, the stuff that I've been learning over the years through conversations with you and other people about how to let all of that crap go and just get into that state. Oh boy, has that made a huge difference. I mean, it's been crazy, but it's been crazy from afar, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't feel like I'm in the craziness. It's just like there's a lot of craziness going on. I'm saying, there's a lot of craziness going on around here.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like in the middle of the storm.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
It's all quiet and you're looking around at this madness.
It's pretty much what it is. It is madness. It gets crazy at times. But, hey, it all adds up to good stuff. So that's what's going in my part of the world. What's going on in your part of the world? You just actually finished a gardening project.
Yeah, I just finished 3 big beds and a couple of small ones. And we used like railway sleepers, so they're huge, strong beds.
Yeah.
And as I was saying, during the entire process, which was weeks and weeks, it never rained, not once. So it was easy to move the light soil all over the place. And, we finished yesterday or the day before, and now it's absolutely poured.
Of course.
Absolutely poured. So now all these new beds are, fully ready. We put in the underlay, we put in the cardboard, we put in the old compost, we put in some new compost, and now everything's completely ready. And then bang, we get this huge downpour just to make it the icing on the cake. Is just so cool.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, like I told you before we got started, Louise and I, at this time of year, we're always putting out to the universe that we want sunny skies with sunny blue skies in the daytime and then rain at nighttime, because we do need the rain. That's part of what a garden needs. Otherwise, it doesn't really become much of a garden. But we just want to do it at night when everybody's asleep, and it's all well and good. And we also ask for it. I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't think I did. We also ask for rain that is that soft, gentle rain. That's the kind, as Louise says, that gardens love, because it just kind of gently seeps into the ground.
Yeah, that long soaking rain.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Not the wash-off rain. Yeah.
No, you don't want that one. You don't want the one where
Soil
you're
erosion.
all done. Well, soil erosion, and you say, "Where did that river come from that's going through my backyard?"
Yeah, that's right.
You want to avoid that one.
Where's all that soil I just put in? Woof, gone down. In the river.
Yeah, so we don't get that kind. We ask for the other kind, which is good. But Amy can't join us today because of weather-related stuff. She's actually dealing with tornado watches today. So we're going to wish her well, and I'm sure she's going to be fine. She and her husband are going to be going through it just fine. But we'll welcome her back next week to talk about her warrior rule number 3, which is going to be the next thing on the list. But today is just kind of open-ended. We get to discuss whatever we want to. So
yeah, I was just thinking what Amy said. She said that her backyard is like a huge pool.
Yes.
And she said, they were thinking of putting a pool out there. So
be careful what you wish for.
And that's so true, especially when you become good with LOA. You've really got to think a little more carefully about how you present things, And one thing I learned from Illusions was, what did he want? A blue feather.
The blue feather, that's right.
Yeah,
Richard Bach's Illusions.
What Donald Shimoda was telling him was like, visualize it on you, in you, somewhere around you, not out there. You know, if you visualize it in general, it can happen anywhere. But if
Right.
you visualize it in on you, around, on your hand, or something that you've achieved in your life, then you'll get it. But otherwise, somebody else might get it. You got to be careful.
So if I remember correctly, he got it in terms of a milk carton that was from Blue
Yeah,
Feather Dairy, if I remember right. So that's
that's
how he got
right.
his blue feather, which was cute. I like that.
Yeah. And these are the things you really start learning with LOA, isn't it?
Mm.
Um,
It's a challenge. I mean, I know that one of my favorite, I like to use little silly cliches. One of my favorite little silly cliches to use is watch where you point that thing, because that's what it gets to the point of being. It's almost like you got a weapon in your hand. I mean, I try not to think about it as a weapon, but if you're not careful, it seems like it was, because you just pointed it at your own foot and fired. But yeah, you're right. It is an opportunity, and it's also a little bit of a cautionary tale. You pay a lot of attention, or else you're going to pay the price. You really have to be on top of your game, which is good. I
yeah,
mean, I think
definitely.
that's part of why we're here, right? We're here really learning control. That's the way I look at it. We're learning how to control our minds, control our focus, and really apply it to make the lives we really want.
So there's a few different levels. So one thing is you've got to focus on what you want. For that, you do need the control. And then the next step is get out of the way.
Yes.
Stop thinking, stop, contemplating, and just let it go completely.
Mm.
And then that step 3 happens, and it gives it space for the manifestation to come quicker and easier. So it's focused attention and letting go, and relief and release. So you've got those circle going the whole time, and
Mm.
Abraham Hicks talks about step 5, which of course is doing both of those, so you get instantaneous manifestations.
Which is
Uh,
fun, but that's where you have to really watch where you're pointing that thing. That's where you have to be
yeah,
on top of your game, which is
that's where
it's
you stub
good.
your toe now and again, and you realize
You
it's
do
not
that,
so.
yeah. Yeah, and you learn along the way. It's where life really it accelerates. Louise and I have been talking about this the last couple of days. How there are various times in our lives where time seems to either drag or it seems to go really, really fast and so forth. And I think
Yeah. I
that
find winter and summer tend to be different
yeah,
so drastically in that
yeah,
respect. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think it has a lot to do with vibration. When our vibration is high, man, it seems like time is flying by. I mean, it's great. It's fun. I'm still learning the skill of having great fun, and it seems like it's just going on forever. I'm still working on that one. I'm getting closer on that one, but
So what you're saying, Walt, is that if you want to learn the opposite of immortality, you just have a good time.
pretty much, yeah, that's what it amounts
Yeah.
to.
So if you want to live forever, just have a crappy time.
Well, actually, what I'm trying to learn is how to do both. I'm trying to learn how to have that long fun time and have it to be really, really fun. And that's mainly just a matter of continuing the practice of learning focus and learning to selectively direct attention on a regular basis, on like a moment by moment basis. And that's just
What
to me,
I,
that's just part of the activity.
yeah, what I'm seeing clearer and clearer at the moment is the acceptance of death.
Hmm.
Just knowing that, I don't really, really want to carry this body around all the time. If I
Hmm.
did, the others would all die, all my loved ones would die, and I can't think of a worse torture than to live forever. I just can't think of it.
Yeah, I
I
hear you
think
on
if
that
you
one.
wanted to really torture somebody, make sure you can't die.
Hmm. Hmm.
So,
Well, I
so
guess it
you
also
kind
depends
of,
on what your your form of existence is. Like if you're, especially if you're alive forever, but you can't do anything because your body is worn down to a frazzle, so you're just basically in limbo for eternity. That sounds like absolute torture to me. I mean, that just sounds absolutely miserable.
yeah,
It's
but
not
even
quite
if
so.
you're a young, a healthy 25, 30-year-old forever, it's still, I think, there's
Forever is
no
too much on
worse.
that. Yeah, but I could
It's
do that one
just
longer. I mean, that one I could enjoy, a few thousand years. Just forever is too far.
a few thousand. I
Well,
don't
I don't
think
know. I
I'd
just pick a
last
number
more
out.
than 100.
I pick
no,
a
no, maybe
number out of
100,
the air,
200.
but yeah, I'll actually my goal is 150. That's what I'm aiming for.
150.
150, yeah, which would break all records.
I've got the picture of 100, but don't think I want to go much further than that.
but to me, it isn't 100 as a really elderly person or 150 as a really elderly person. It's 100 living life, like a full-bodied
Mm.
person. And then
Mm-hmm.
at the last second, okay, I'm done, fall over, dead, gone. That to me is the ideal life right there.
Yeah, I think from what I gather from the more spiritual individuals that I've read about, bumped into in the world, they seem to have a greater and greater level of control of to when and how they
Mm-hmm.
die.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, that's much better than losing my marbles with Alzheimer or one of those many
Oh yeah.
things and then just deteriorating into where they go. Because, my wife works at palliative care nursing home, and
Mm-hmm.
you kind of really get that idea that it's terrible. I mean, what would you be, Walt, if you didn't have any of your memories?
I'm not sure that's a question that can be answered.
Exactly.
I don't know. There is no data at that point.
Exactly. So, and this is what happens to a lot of people. They lose huge chunks of their memory going further and further and further back
Mm.
to their childhood. And, they can only remember up to the age of 9 or something. And, they're like 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. You've lost a huge chunk of who you are. It's
Mm.
just wiped out. You can't recognize your own children. It's really weird.
I had an aunt who went through that and passed a few years back, and I mean, I didn't see her at all during those later years, so I don't know experientially what that was like. But I knew from stories that my cousins and my uncle told me and so forth, that it was pretty miserable for them. And yet, what they told me about, I compared that to stuff that I've read because even though medical science and psychological science don't really know what the true root causes of Alzheimer's are. They've been picking up bits and pieces. They got little bits of it they figured out. Like for instance, there's a lot of evidence that shows that it is very very similar to diabetes and has very much the same kind of impact on the body as diabetes does. Different symptoms, but very similar physiological effect. And they've also there's been some speculation. I don't know how much actual science, how much actual evidence is behind this, but there's some scientific speculation that it may have to do with how often and in what way you use your mind on a regular basis.
Hmm.
Do you actively stay mentally focused on stuff, or do you just kind of become an observer of the world and just kind of sit back and not really do much of anything? They're speculating that maybe that latter category may be an indicator of somebody who might be a candidate for Alzheimer's simply because it shows up a lot among those who actually contract the condition. So, I mean, it's speculative. None of this is firm science yet, but it's interesting the stuff that they have dug up. And I say that because to me, it's just another reinforcement about what we know about the law of attraction. You focus your attention on what you want, not on what you don't want, and you get more of what you want, not what you don't want. And there's that question that goes on in my mind, like with my aunt. I knew my aunt fairly well. I mean, especially when I was younger, we spent a lot of time with that part of the family. Hadn't seen her very much at all in later years. But if she was pretty much the same person later on as she was early, I could see how she'd be spending a lot of her time focused on stuff that she didn't really approve of very much. She didn't
Hmm.
approve of it. She didn't like it. But she would focus on it, and she, or not in a big way, but complain about stuff and so forth. I can kind of see that. Now, does that mean that that's exactly what happened? No, I don't know. I really don't know what happened, but it just makes me wonder. And not just with my aunt, but with anybody who's got those kind of conditions. What are they focusing their attention on? I mean, I'm not saying we'll ever know. We probably never will, because how do you know what's going on inside somebody else's head? But I just wonder about it. I wonder what they're giving their attention to, because we do attract everything that comes into our lives. Like it or not, we attract everything that comes into our lives. I don't know.
One thing I've seen, my wife's talking about her people in the nursing home, that once they do lose a certain percentage of their marbles, then they become extremely happy. So they wake up like a 9-year-old kid, excited about
Mm.
life,
Hmm.
always looking for something else to play or do and chatting
Right,
and
right.
all the rest of it. And then they go to sleep and then they wake up and they like so fine again. So one thing I think people are doing is They're really wanting to be happy again. And to be happy again, you need to get rid of the memories that are holding you back.
So
You know,
they're
these
doing like
traumatic aspects,
they're doing like
you
what
want to
gardeners
wipe
find
that out.
when if you're a gardener and you're trying to clear a really really overgrown area. We actually turned down a project like this recently because if you have, let's say you have a garden that has plants in it that you want and a whole bunch of weeds that you don't want, and they're so tightly packed in there that what happens is the root structures of the two merge together.
Are intertwined.
They intertwine. And so you start pulling up weeds, and the plant that you want starts to come up too. And so you have to almost do surgery to try to get and extract the weed out from the plant that you want to save. And very often you still can't save the plant anyway because you're disturbing it so badly. So it becomes almost an impossibility to clean up a garden if it gets too overgrown, if it goes so far that everything is so heavily tied together. Well, I wonder if the same thing is happening there. They've got these memories they don't like, and there's a lot of them, and they're really, the roots of them are really intertwined with the stuff that they do want to keep. They try to pull the whole thing out experientially, or not experientially, energetically, and the stuff they want to keep goes away too. I'm just wondering. I mean, that could be the way it works. Again, just pure speculation. I have no. This is not science, folks. We're not talking science. We're just talking speculative here. So don't save the letters.
And guys, science has been wrong too. So
this is true. Science is actually wrong a lot.
The world was flat. Now it's round, and there's other people who now believe it's flat again. So hey.
And good scientists will tell you that science is wrong more often than it's right, because most of the time, I mean, the way it works is they're collecting data and then they're creating hypotheses based on the data, and the hypotheses are being created by biased human beings. So they're going to get stuff wrong, and so they're it's kind of like flying an airplane. You go too far this way, so you correct to come back this way. Now you're flying too far that way. You correct to go back this way. You're constantly correcting. They say that a pilot, a skilled commercial airline pilot, is off course 95% of the time because he's constantly correcting to get himself back on course. That's pretty much the same thing with what a scientist does. Science is all about constantly correcting for, okay, you got this piece of information. Oh, well, that kind of screws that part of the theory. Let's throw that part out. Let's recreate that into something new. Test again. Oh, now this one goes away. They're constantly correcting. So, of course, they're going to be wrong most of the time. How could they not be?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, really. There's so many dimensions to all of that because, how do I put this? Amy and I have experienced a lot of out of body in different radio stations, the way I tune. We've tuned our vibration into different areas that we can perceive.
Right.
So one thing that comes up into your understanding and your awareness is that reality is very subjective. It depends where you've tuned your station. And you start realizing that reality is really nothing more or less than what you make it. Mm-hmm. We might say there's some agreed reality that this is a glass and, these are glasses or whatever.
I love it.
But
no, this is a cup. This isn't a glass.
And I'm happy that that's your reality. I'm really not going to argue that point with you because I will lose wholeheartedly. Because that is the reality. That's the truth. The truth is that it is what you think it is and what you believe it to be. If you really believe, and there's quite a few people who really believe that you must have the vaccine, then that is their reality.
Yeah.
And if somebody else is not taking it, you're a bad person, and that is their reality. And then you get the others who say, well, this whole thing's a con, and there's a lot of evidence on that side of it as well. And how can you be so daft to go down that route? And so you've got, and then that's their reality. It
is.
And you start drawing like-minded people to you and like-minded information, and everything gets justified and amplified, and the law of attraction is just playing its game. Where you focus, you're going to get more of. And there's nothing more than that. And then, the one group starts fighting the other group, and it's like, it's just the law of attraction playing out in your life. Don't you see that? But no, people don't see that at I've always think that the biggest problem mankind has is to say, you should believe what I believe.
Yeah.
And I think almost every war, every fight, and everything has been started from that.
One way or
Let's
another.
say fighting another country. Why are you fighting that other country? You could find a way to let them be individual, let them stay there, and work together.
Hmm.
Allow people in your country to live in that country, people in that country to live in this country, and then why do you need to go to war? There's no border anymore. You can all both go to each other's country. There's no need to fight for anything anymore.
Yeah.
There are alternative solutions.
I've often thought about the same issue where being a law of attraction practitioner is concerned, because I could just as easily make a similar argument about those of us who discuss and favor the idea of the law of attraction. We create our own reality. Well, did we create the law of attraction? Is it only in existence and only useful in our world and not in anybody else's world? I mean, I know what Abraham has taught us. I know what other teachers have said, but the question still crosses my mind. Like, well, maybe just Louis, me, and Amy created this, and a few other people.
Absolutely. But my version's slightly different to yours. So mine is
This
better.
is true. Yours is better. You're right. It is better. You.
Exactly. You got it. High five.
High five. Oh, it's true. Though. This is.
I'm really enjoying that whole aspect of allowing other people to believe whatever they want.
Yeah.
There's so much freedom for you and for them.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've done that a lot of my life, I've had a lot of people tell me everything about their lives. You have no idea. They will tell me
Sure.
all the stuff because I don't judge. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care if you've done this, done that, haven't. It's just all okay with me. It's your game that you're playing. It's your contrast that you're playing with.
It's a funny thing
Yeah.
too, because we do, as human beings, want to kind of gang up on each other. Mainly not so much those of us in the LOA game, but those of us who are in the broader society. We're trying to, like you said, talk somebody else into something, or we're trying to steal energy from somebody, or we're trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. We're trying to do something. So many of us in this world, and we don't realize just how exhausting it is until we finally begin to recognize the things you and I were talking about here. And how did you describe it a moment ago? It was something like you reach a point where you don't really care so much, and you're just inundated by all this other stuff. You see all these people who are expressing all these viewpoints and creating all these worlds for themselves, and that doesn't affect you. I mean, it doesn't affect you because you don't let it affect you. It's just a part of who you are. But there's I don't know about you, there's a piece of me that I still want to say, yeah, you created that, right? I mean, this little thing that you're complaining so much about, you created that. But I also know the moment I do that is the moment they probably come after me. So I say, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. But I want to. Like, wait a minute, don't you know what you're doing there?
So the way I like teaching people in that scenario is I just say, hey, you know what I found is that if you do this and this, that and that happens, and I walk away. It's game over. It's a seed. You let it do whatever the seed does, die or grow. It's not up to you about that. But you talk about your own life and your own experience, and you share it with
That's
passion.
good. Yeah.
And it really makes a difference. I've seen so many people shake my hands and greet, get my name and number, and it goes on and on and on. Just because I talk with passion, It's just so much fun. Just going like, this is what I've found works brilliantly for me, and
I've also
this is
found
how I see it.
there's the subtle aspect of it too, because as I have become more and more skilled at differentiating between what it is I want and don't want, and differentiating what it is that I want to communicate to somebody else and what I really don't want to communicate to somebody else, because I recognize, they'll go in a direction I don't necessarily like. As I refined it and gotten better and better at it, I'm finding that my non-LOA conversations are working out really well. Really, really well. I'll give you an example. We had a prospective customer for the gardening business that Rita, who does our new customer consults, went to visit him, and he had a garden just like the one I described, where all the root systems are all grown together, and you can't really save the plants that he wants to save, which is a shame because his garden was actually pieces that came from other relatives' gardens. It was what he had saved of each one of them, but he hadn't kept the garden up, so all the weeds had intertwined, and now we couldn't save the garden. It was kind of sad, but we had to basically say to him, this just isn't going to be cost effective. We'd have to spend hours and hours trying to extract roots from each of the different plants that you want to save. And even then, there's no guarantee it'll work. We could still end up killing those plants. It's just not going to be worth it for us to do this job. And he was quite sad about that. But as I was conversing with him, I was in a non-combative situation completely, and I felt like I was. I didn't feel like I had, even though he was kind of defensive about it, because he was, feeling like, well, nobody's really saving me from my problem and all that kind of thing. And I wasn't buying into that energy at all. I was being sympathetic to his situation, but I wasn't buying into it. And the conversation started off. This is interesting. It started off with him kind of chastising Rita, our customer person, and by the end of it, he was praising her for being a professional. Now, I hadn't said anything one way or another about Rita. All I had done was just energetically guide him through the conversation to let him and help him get stuff out that he wanted to get out, and help him see what the reality of the situation was and what role he had played in it, without in any way pointing fingers or judging or blaming. Mm-hmm. And on his own, he turned it into, wow, you guys are such a professional organization. Damn, I'm getting good at this.
That's a nice story. I like that.
Yeah. I like it too. Let me tell you, that's a skill that I've taken a long time to learn. So yeah, really good. Anyway,
say hi to Nancy there.
Hi there, Nancy. Yeah, glad you dropped by.
Yeah. So, what do you understand about biodiversity?
I know it's good. Other than that, I can't say I know a whole lot about it. I mean, I've read articles that claim to be written by people who know all about it, and I read the article, I say, yeah, okay, so...
Well, what I meant is just, what is biodiversity?
What is biodiversity? I guess I would define it as a wide range of species and stuff within biology. So, I mean, that's my definition, but only from Rhode Island. Oh, actually, that's where Louise's family is, Rhode Island. So hello, Rhode Island. That's fabulous. But yeah, I mean, I have a very non-scientific definition of biodiversity. So, mine wouldn't stand the rigors that they go through. But what do you think of biodiversity? What does that mean to you?
Well, let's take a farm, for example.
Okay.
If you only plant corn, you've got one crop.
True.
Now, if you took the same field and you plant apples mixed with pears, mixed with banana trees, mixed with corn, mixed with berries, etc., then
that's going to be a mess. You got trees, you got plants, you got stuff all over the place here.
Yep. And what they've now proven is that when farmers do that, they are now able to pick crops almost all year round.
Yeah, you mentioned
make money all year round,
which is cool.
They're able to, they aren't able to send in the combined harvesters, etc., etc. anymore. Yeah. But they found that financially, it is extremely beneficial. So there's a financial aspect to it.
Yeah.
And what they've also discovered is because of the biodiversity and allowing the grass to grow, and instead of tilling, which you were talking about earlier, which is ripping up the soil and making it naked.
Right.
You've got these machines that go into the grassed field, whatever it is, and put down a seed into the ground, move on, put down a seed in the ground without any tilling. They've got hydraulics and stuff that can do this stuff easily these days. So there's no reason to rip up the grass or anything, no need. And it's tilling. So once you've got a biodiverse area, and I'm really quite interested in all this, I'm getting more and more interested in soil every day, because when you've got huge biodiversity fields like that, you suck up tons and tons and tons of CO2. greenhouse gas just gets sucked back into the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you've got tilling, you've got none of that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely zero.
That
And
makes
us
sense.
cutting down our carbon footprint is almost useless because it's so small and insignificant in connection in comparison to a biodiverse piece of land.
That's interesting
And
because our business that we're in is gardening, and gardening is all about selecting what you want to be in your garden. In other words, it's not creating a biodiverse garden, because a biodiverse garden would have weeds in it. But the whole definition of a weed is, well, I don't want that plant. That's why I call it a weed. So gardening is about being very selective about what you want.
Even if you pick out the weeds and you put all the different banana and cherries and etc., the different trees next to each other, you've still got a far more biodiverse garden.
I agree.
Than not,
Yes.
And you can have some kind of grass cover, some kind of, there's many different types of grass, not necessarily grass, but you've got different ground covers, that's the word I'm using.
Mm-hmm.
You can have different ground covers in between all of it.
Yeah, we call them ornamental grasses, right?
Yeah. So you can do loads of things, and it's fascinating the degree to which they suck up the CO2. It is in gargantuous proportions, even small biodiverse areas.
Mm-hmm.
And what a farmer in Texas worked out is that if he took compost and he put it over his grazing ground, and then he controlled the grazing, he moved from one to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and then he put the compost on. He's got such a rich soil that you pick it up and you just got worms underneath and all the rest of it. And it's, I've learned so much at the moment about the earth, because I've started to realize, that, as I've mentioned to you before, that the human is just an accumulation of earth.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all the same elements, right?
We eat meat, which comes from a cow, who's eaten grass, which comes from soil.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's true.
So, no matter what you eat, we are just pimples of earth that are walking around on the body.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that analogy. On behalf of all mankind and all the pimples in the world, thank you so much for that.
There is a new way of looking at human.
And I'm about done looking at it that way.
It doesn't float your boat, but
Not really, no.
I love giving people a different way of looking at who and what you are in the bigger scheme of things.
But you got me thinking for a second, though, because like I said, this is the gardening season, and the business that Louise and I are in is a gardening service business. And I'm imagining to myself, what would happen if we were to talk to our customers and say, hey, let's do a biodiverse garden where we have trees and plants and flowers and everything all in the same space. They're going to look at us and say, I think I'm going to go to the other landscaper, because they're just not ready for that one.
You should have a look at my wife's garden. There's so much in it. We have yosterberries, blackberries, gooseberries, raspberries, blackberries. So, we've got about 6 or 7 berries. We've got 2 grape trees grapevines that absolutely drip with grapes. We have 2 apple trees that absolutely drip with apples. We've got a prune tree. What's it? A damson tree that absolutely drips with fruit. I mean, we get tons. I mean, literally. I've got a ladder climbing up this tree, and I just pull them off all. And we freeze them, and etc. We've got these now 3 huge vegetable gardens, which we always had, but now they're new and bigger and better. And we grow at least 50% of our veg as well during the summer,
Right.
Not during winter. And it's just really nice to go into the gardening, pick up that what did we get the other day? Horseradish.
Oh, no kidding.
We pulled out the horseradish because we needed to move it because of these new beds, and there was this long piece that we had, and we had to grate this whole thing up, and you got to freeze it and all the rest of it. But that, your eyes are just burning, and there's so much power in horseradish. If you've ever got a cold or anything, you put horseradish in a wrapped up warm blanket towel around your neck, and it'll clean up your sinuses and everything. It's just amazing. That stuff's so potent. You have no idea.
Wow. Hey, I want to take a moment to say hello to Neo Positivity, who is also our new Friday co-host along with Debbie G.
Hi, Neil.
Saying hello to us. And Neo, if you want to jump on, I just sent you a link where you can jump onto the podcast. So if you feel like jumping in for a few minutes, by all means, join us. Neo's
it'd be
great.
Nice to meet you.
He is a great guy. He is really cool. He has an amazing backstory, and he has a really, really cool take on LOA and how he likes to share it in the world and so forth. So, plus he's got a great name. I mean, Neil's actually his real name. The Positivity Party changed, but Neil is actually his name. And I did confirm that the character in the Matrix was not named after him, but it should have been.
Oh, I love Neo. I love Morpheus as well. Never mind. They're both great characters.
They are. They're wonderful characters.
Yeah. I mean, that was a movie that really was way ahead of its time, and it was like the first time they'd used that kind of animation and screen effects, etc. It was a first on many levels. It was brilliant movie. I can't say enough about it. So why I'm bringing up a lot of this biodiversity and greenhouse and all the rest of it is when you become good at the law of attraction, you start looking for more and more ways that you can use your focus, not only to help yourself, but to help anything and everything. And when you're doing that, very much like me, you want to understand the core parts of life, which of course the law of attraction is very much one of them.
Right.
And you want to understand what's the core thing you can do to help the planet. And one of the core things to do is to help people understand soil and soil education. That fixes so many different problems on this planet. You have no idea.
One thing that I really like about that approach, I don't know necessarily myself personally what all those effects are. I'm sure you'll tell us in a moment. But the one thing I do like about it is that it asserts something that you want rather than complaining about something you don't want. I mean, that all by itself is a huge step forward. So you got my attention.
Absolutely.
Tell me.
So would you say the quality of our food is as good as our parents had it?
No.
What is the effect of that?
I have no idea, but it can't be good.
So if you're eating lower quality food, you're getting lower quality humans, aren't you? You're getting...
the bodies are, let's put it that way. The bodies aren't doing as well.
And the body includes the brain, and the brain is linked to the mind. Which, yeah.
I don't think it actually controls the health of the mind. I think the human being does that, but it certainly affects the brain, and that definitely has an effect.
Exactly. So there's a symbiotic relationship, and you can't kind of remove any part of the cycle. The body needs the mind, and the mind needs the body, and they're all very, very linked. So if you're negatively affecting any one part, it's going to negatively affect the rest. And the way I kind of look at it is, what would be the biggest sin? Let's use that horrible word. What would be the biggest sins humanity could do to itself?
Well, I think I'd start by answering with what Cindy Chavez would say about sin, and I agree with her on this point, which is what the original definition of the word sin is. To sin means to miss the mark. So literally, it's no more than you're aiming at a target with a bow and arrow and you miss the target. Well, you just pick up another arrow and you aim again. That's all. I mean, there's no shame involved. There's no blame involved. You miss the target, so you just correct your aim. No big deal. But I know what you mean, because people do have these other meanings that we like to attach to the word sin that weren't really originally part of that word. But yes, they are there.
I like playing with that word sin. It's been brought up as a good Catholic. It's a good word.
I actually have gotten to the point where I really could care less about the word sin. To me, it doesn't have any kind of negative impact anymore. But it used to have a big impact on me. Really, really big.
I don't think it ever really had that much of an impact on me, but I understand exactly what you mean. Just talking about breaking away from Christianity. I thought I'd broken away many times and I hadn't. It has a strong, deep pull that you that you had to go through. But let's go back to what I believe is the greatest sin humanity can do to itself.
Oh yeah, that's where this all came up, isn't it? Right. Okay.
Yes. Let's go back to the beginning. I would say it is producing a new generation that is stupider. I shouldn't use that word. Is dumber, is weaker, even physically weaker than the previous generation.
Oh come on, Louis! Don't hold back. Tell us what you really think.
Do I need to really spell it out?
Oh. Well, I suppose that's one way to look at it. Of course, the other way to look at it is that we have an entire generation that is diving so deeply into the contrast that when they finally decide to come back out, they're going to produce something amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
and you need to wait for that for that transformation to happen. And in the meantime, it would be great if we could speed that up, help it, make people understand that this is a transformation.
Well, we can.
That they are going through this. It just really helps that. I still can't believe the amount of people that are on medication or drugs or whatever you want to call it. It just.
Well, I can believe it. I just try not to, but I understand what you mean. Yeah, it's rather.
The reason why I can't believe it is I've never touched a drug in my life. None of my family's touched a drug in their life. Most of my friends, I don't even know how to buy a drug. Let's say even marijuana or something. I don't even know how to buy it.
Not even like a penicillin or something. You never had an antibiotic or anything like that?
Yes, I have. I was pumped with antibiotics as a kid. No control.
Okay, so you had some.
And I do occasionally take a quarter of a aspirin or something. So yes, but I'm talking about anything long term. Something that was done. You've done not for a week. Antibiotics are usually about a week.
Yeah.
A headache tablet is 1 or 2 quarters a year, which is negligible. So, it's somebody who's done it for months. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing about this is are you increasing your 5 physical senses or are you decreasing them?
I'm not sure how to quantitatively define increasing and decreasing in that case, but...
Okay, becoming more aware or less aware?
I'm not sure how to define that one either. I mean, because to me it's a slippery slope there.
Okay, let me put it this way. Walt, you're going to go on a little biplane with a pilot.
Okay.
And the pilot.
I'm going to be Richard. I like this.
Yeah. Do you want to get onto the plane with a smoked up pilot?
Not really. No.
No. So would you say his faculties are decreased or increased?
I would say that his faculties are distorted.
Okay, which is better or worse? I mean,
certainly worse. I'll agree with. If you had said better or worse, then I would have been right on board with you. Okay. The rest of it was kind of throwing me off a little bit.
So the way I look at that is decreasing your awareness or your 5 physical senses or your ability to perceive reality or in a clearer way. We could make another example. We could say, okay, Walt, if you don't really get that one and you think drugs make you see everything clearer, okay.
I didn't say that. I just said that it would distort. I didn't say that it was better or worse. That's not something I choose.
Let's say you're about to go for a triple bypass,
and I'm not about to get on the plane that the guy's flying either. But
And do you want the major heart surgeon to be all smoked up and drugged up?
Not really, no. But on the other hand, I want to try to avoid the triple bypass if I can.
You get the point. So
anything
that lowers your faculties, we really want to stay away from. Now, what would heighten your faculties?
joy, high vibration.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
what else? What about some good physical exercise?
well, yeah. I mean, anything that
Yeah.
falls into the
Yeah.
category of higher vibe is going to play out well. So physical exercise, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Laughter, absolutely.
So
A good meal, sure. I mean, anything that's high vibe is going to work as far as I'm
a
concerned.
good meal would be food that is of maybe organic rather than normal.
It
Maybe
could be, sure, yeah.
fresh raw food rather than McDonald's.
I try to avoid the McDonald's. Actually, I can't remember the last time I ever had McDonald's. It's been years, but
Don't tell anybody we had one. My wife and I went to
did
it.
you
It
really?
was the only
Oh,
thing that was open.
I think the last time I had anything from McDonald's was probably Louise occasionally likes to get their French fries, and so I had a French fry probably a year or two ago. But that was about
Do you know
it.
it was scary, Walt? We actually enjoyed it.
But that's okay though. That's actually good.
Exactly,
That's actually
exactly. You got it.
good. Yeah, because the fact is, it isn't so much the thing itself; it's how we respond to it that makes the difference. So if I pay attention to something that is generally considered to be awful, but I do it feeling really good about it because I feel really good about it, then it's not going to have the same effect on me as it's going to have on somebody who says,
Exactly.
"Oh, this is really terrible. I just can't take this. This is awful."
Hmm.
And the response is, "You're right. You can't. If you do, you're going to kill yourself."
It's like I was dunking my 6-month-old daughter to the bottom of the deep end of the swimming pool in the
Oh,
health club.
lovely.
And she was coming up with this huge grin and smile on her face. And I was doing it again and
Let's
again.
do it
And this
again.
one parent at the side with her daughter in the armbands and all the rest of it said, I could never do that. I said, yeah, well, if that's your belief structure, please don't
Don't
do
do
it.
it. Right.
You can give it to me. I can do it with your kid, but
Yes,
don't do
right.
it yourself.
I'm sure that flipped her out even more, but yes.
Exactly.
Isn't it funny though how the perception rules the science? Because that's really what we're alluding to. We were talking about science before and about how science gets things wrong. It isn't so much that science gets things wrong; it's that science keeps changing its mind about what it finds and says, "Okay, I like this result. I don't like that result, so I'm going to go with this result," and then creates a theory based on that, and then the theory produces new results. Well, I don't really like that result, but I like this one, so I'll go this way. It's a constant adjustment of how we feel about the results. Of course, that's not the way science looks at it. Science looks at it in terms of, well, this is true and that's not true. This is proven, that's not proven. This is shown, that is not shown. But really, what they're saying is, I like this and I don't like that. They haven't quite made that connection yet. Maybe it's going to come at some point. I don't really know. What I do know is this, and I'm going to go back to something else you spoke about a moment ago. The fact is that when we work with or talk with or in any way communicate with people who are, say, the medication takers, as an example, or who are the people who are eating McDonald's all day long, or whatever the thing is that we would not choose for ourselves. If we can remember one rule, well, two rules now that I think about it. One rule is find what feels good about it. That one we already know about. But there's a second one I'd like to throw in there. And that is, if we can find a way to look at that experience and remember that energy entrains unto itself, to use Cindy Chavez's phrase, I love that phrase, then by taking advantage of that fact and taking advantage of how the law of attraction works with that fact, we can influence any situation that we want to toward an end that we prefer. Doesn't mean we're going to change the person. We need to just differentiate here because they are also 100% powerful creators as well, even if they don't know it. So they're the ones who are going to decide whether or not they're going to change. But we can influence them, and we can influence the other actors that are involved, and we can influence the elements, and we can influence everything that's going on. So, I mean, you raised a question earlier. Well, I don't remember what the phrasing was that you used, but the gist of it was, wouldn't it be nice if we could, change the world to a more biodiverse world? And the answer is, well, yeah, we can. Guess what? It's great. And which I know you already are aware of that. But how cool it is to take advantage of that fact that energy entrains onto itself, to focus our attention on what it is that we love about biodiversity, which you were doing eloquently, and to know that just by doing that, more and more energy is flowing our way because we focus.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it's one of the most powerful things in the universe, and it's an advanced LOA concept. I mean, basic LOA encompasses it, but until you get to the stage where you can actually explain it that way, it's kind of elusive. But once you get to the point where
Abram
you can
says it
explain it,
so
it's cool.
succinctly. Try and get that word out.
Succinctly.
So really, really succinctly, and that is, what's the greatest gift you can give anybody? What's it? What do you think?
I thought that was rhetorical. I'm sorry.
No, it was rhetorical, and I'd also.
Oh, it was both.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought you knew the answer off by heart, and you just blurted it out.
I was waiting for you. I mean, I didn't want to step
Okay.
on your rhetoric. You're doing great. No, the best gift you can give to anybody else is your own happiness, your own joy, your own high energy. Yeah.
And once you get that, you understand everything that you were talking about.
Yeah.
You start realizing that, your happiness really means one thing: a high vibration. In LOA language. And if you're expounding and pushing out and being high vibration, it will affect anything and everything around you. It doesn't. Monitor, calm down.
When we say everything, we mean everything.
The amount of high vibration people that have electrical problems, shall we say?
Oh, frequently on this program, let me tell you. We used to especially get it back on the Friday show when Linda and Rita were the co-hosts there. I swear every single week something was going bonkers electronically just because the energy was so high vibe. Oh, yeah. Not unusual around here.
In what I like saying, my previous life when I was an IT guru working in blue chip companies in London, I got to know when I was working for a longer period of time in a company, the users, and I got to know which one of them had issues with computers. You would take this faulty computer of theirs, you couldn't fix it. You would literally take the base unit, monitor and everything, take it back, you give them a brand new one that's working absolutely fine, and within a week or two they've managed to destroy this thing again.
That used to freak me out, but for the longest time, because I didn't know law of attraction all the time that I was working in IT, and I used to see the phenomenon. I'd say, how on earth do they do that? I just gave them a great new computer and they wrecked it in a week. How did they do that? It takes a lot of work to do that, especially the way that we would, harden them up and so forth. So that would be really difficult to do stuff. They would do it anyway. I didn't quite get that at first. Yeah.
And the other thing, going back to raising your vibration, raising your awareness, one of the oldest and most established methods planet Earth has had for this is yoga. Now, yoga is far more than hatha yoga, which is the physical yoga, which is what yoga is perceived as.
That's what it's taught as.
So much more. And really getting into understanding all the different types of yoga and starting to implement some of them in your life. It's really very, very powerful. It's not to be underestimated, and I have the fullest respect for it personally. It's these guys have perfected it over centuries.
Have you implemented it in your own life? I'm curious. I mean, have you actually made it part of your daily life?
Yeah, absolutely. I do yoga in all different shapes and forms. The pranayama I do every single day, which is breathing exercises. To increase your lung capacity, to increase your awareness, to increase the physical energy that you have in your body, etc. You implement all these things. It's just incredible. Especially breathing. It's, to me, one of my biggies. It always has been because I had asthma as a kid, and breathing has always been a big thing for me.
Yeah, sure.
And all the rest of it. So, yes, I mean, I've been talking to you about a form of respect, putting your hands together when you see earth, when you see wood, when you see space, when you see fire, etc. You know, just submitting to that on a daily basis whenever you're seeing these elements, just recognizing them, recognizing that you are an accumulation of these elements on different levels, has been incredible. I mean, that has been one of my newer, bigger experiences with it. And you know, these a lot of these techniques are so simple. I mean, you have no idea how simple they are, but it's doing them with awareness that changes everything. You can do yoga or hatha yoga, physical yoga, as all day, every day, and you can get almost nothing out of it. But you do it with full awareness, the way the yogis can teach you. You, like your emotion, you know, you got all this relief and release just pouring out of you. It's on a completely different dimension, and it's difficult to kind of describe all that to people, because it's really taking you to another level, and it just opens you up. Good stuff.
It's very good stuff. I had a thought that I was going to come in with after that, and I can't remember what it was, but it was good. That's all right. We're nearing the end of the program, and I really need to get a promo or two in here. So let's take a moment to do that and remind people that you are welcome to contribute and be part of the conversation. And the best way to do that is send your questions and comments and so forth in to us here at LOA Today. The easiest way to do that is the LOA Today app, because it has forms built right in that you can just fill out the form, send it, and boom, it ends up right in my email box. And we often get people who do that, and it's great when we hear from people like that. The other thing, though, that I want people to remember to do, and we haven't been pushing this as much lately, so I want to push it a little bit. We've been getting people to download the app. We want to get people who are kind of lurking to not only subscribe, but to keep recurring in their playing of what's in their subscription. And we also want you to share with other people that you're subscribing and that you're enjoying, because really, especially today, that's the way word of mouth works the best. That's how people find out about things the best. And there are people probably in your life right now who need to hear about LOA Today, because they need your daily dose of happy. So please take a moment when you think about it, every time you think about it, to just share on, on social media or conversation or whatever. By the way, I've been listening to LOA Today, and you ought to check it out. We would appreciate if you did that. So a couple minutes left. We miss Amy, of course, but as usual, we've found that we still have our mutual vibe that we're able to latch onto, and we latched onto it pretty quickly today. So well done to both of us to not forgetting what it's like when we don't have Amy around to just go, wow, with the energy.
Yeah, it's always great having you on.
Oh, she's fabulous. She's absolutely fabulous. By the way, I mentioned Neopositivity, and he and Debbie are doing the Friday show with me. We're also going to have a special guest this week. I'll be providing more information about that coming up soon. So especially if you listen to us through the social media channels, pay attention, because I'll be posting something about that program. But this guest who's coming on has a pretty interesting background. So I'll just give you that teaser right now. And that's all I'm going to tell you. You'll have to pay more attention to other programs to find out more. Does that mean? No, that's not mean, is it? I hope not.
What's not you?
Well, just, not telling them the whole story. But it's kind of weird. It's manipulative.
Like that, I know.
It gets them to come back. That's the whole idea, right? So anyway,
teaser, I like it.
Yeah, it's a teaser. That's why they call them teasers, right? Movie teasers have the same principle. They're teasing. They're trying to get you to be interested. So anyway, okay. Well, this has been good. Really good conversation. I love some of the things we were talking about there, because especially the biodiversity piece. That's good stuff to think about, and it gives me more to kind of include it in my daily meditations about what it is that I really want in my life. I like the idea as you were describing. I know you've talked about it before, but I liked it. So Thank you for bringing that up. It was good.
You're welcome. Take care.
And thank you to all of our, we had a few people on the live stream. Thank you to those of you who were listening on the live stream, but especially thank you to all of our podcast listeners, without whom we would have no podcast at all. But we will see you next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.